Hi, folks. Here we go. This time we're going to take care of stanza 6. This is going to be a relatively simple one, and I don't really have much to tell you right now, but this stanza is going to become very important when we do the overall review and definitely in the solution. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. I want to try to keep these short, and this one's there's not really that much to discuss here until we get into the final video because this one's pretty easy to understand. As usual, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go in here and find all the verbs. So here's our first verb, hear. There's our second verb, listen. And there is a difference between these two. And just like all of the other stanzas that we went over, you probably want to go ahead, now that we broke everything down into the grammatical components, and now you can actually go to a dictionary and you know what you're looking up. For example, when you're looking up here, you're only really going to pay attention to the verb definitions. So if you see a noun definition, you're not really going to pay attention to it because it's not being used as a noun. Definitely look these two verbs up. Here's another verb phrase, will be. Here's another verb, are, give. That looks like we have all the verbs taken care of. So let's go on to the pronouns. First pronoun that we have is me, you. Next pronoun we have would be I. Of course, I is the one that's doing the given here. This is acting as the direct object. That's what you're listening to when you hear. This sentence here is similar to the one that we had in the other stanza. It's called an imperative. So even though you don't see it, there's an implied subject here of you. Now we got one more pronoun here. This one is being used as an indirect object. So we'll go ahead now and we'll grab the nouns. First noun we got effort, cold, wood, title, and gold. Let's do the prepositions now. Prepositions we got worth the cold, in the wood, and to the gold. It's the last prepositional phrase that I see here. Let's go look for the determiners. First determiner here is your. Next determiner, the cold. Next determiner is here, the wood. And the final determiner is the again. And this time it's referring to the gold. Let's go ahead and do the adjectives now. All. Now, all is acting as a direct object complement. Me, in this case, is the direct object. Okay. So the direct object is what you were supposed to hear. Hear me. And all, it's acting as an object complement. We got good. Now, good is acting as a subject complement. So good. Now, remember, I said that there's an implied subject here. You. You're the one. You're the one reading this. So when I said here that good is a subject complement, it's actually referring all the way back to you. So it's telling you. So you. So hear me all and listen good. And we got worth the cold is also acting as a subject complement uh, to the be verb here. So the subject here is effort. So this is acting as a subject complement, modifying effort. Your effort is what will be worth the cold. Okay. That's basically the way that works. So let's go ahead now and we'll do the conjunctions. First one we have here is a subordinating conjunction. And if we've already come across that too in stanza 4, and it's the same exact thing. It's an adverbial clause showing condition. If you are braver than the wood, then this happens. That's basically the way that works. And we got one more conjunction over here. So we'll go ahead now and we'll break these up into clauses. This is a dependent clause. So hear me all and listen good. The independent clause in that sentence, because notice there's a period here. That's the end of that sentence. This is the independent clause. And this one here is a dependent clause. So hear me all and listen good. Your effort will be worth the cold. Then down here, we got another dependent clause. And I want to point something out here. This is obviously an independent clause. It will stand on its own. I give you title to the gold. But in the grammar rules, and like I said before, the only time I'm going to say something about grammar is when something appears that is out of the ordinary to me. And I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. I'm not going to try to correct it. But the rule for joining dependent clauses with independent clauses, the comma rule, basically works like this. Whenever you have a dependent clause that appears before an independent clause, you're supposed to have a comma there. Okay. But if you wrote it the other way around, in other words, if I wrote, I give you title to the gold if you are brave and in the wood, then you don't need a comma because the independent clause would be appearing before it. So since the dependent clause is first, if you look throughout the rest of the poem, like even up here, he's got a dependent clause, he's got a comma, and he's got the independent clause after it. He broke that rule here. Now, that rule, just to mention ahead of time, you could break it when you're dealing with really small sentences. And also, when we had that introductory clause, you can kind of consider this like an exit clause. This also happens to be the very last line of the poem. So that may be why he's doing it, or he's drawing attention to it. I think it's the latter. I think he's drawing attention to it. And I'm not going to get into why now because I'll do that when we review everything. And I'm definitely going to have to review it when we talk about my psalm. And so now that this is the last stanza, it's a good time that you should probably go back and review all of the other ones and kind of take notes to yourself of the meanings now that you're able to go to a dictionary. Because one thing I'm not going to do in my solve is go and look up the meaning of the words because I've broken down the poem enough that it should be obvious if you know what the words mean. If you don't know what they mean, then it's a perfect time to go to a dictionary. One thing about this stanza is in the solution, you're going to find out what the title to the gold is. Now, everybody assumes that you don't know what the title to the gold is until you get the treasure chest and it's in the chest and it's something like no. Um, and also, some people assume that this is some kind of legalese that tells you, I'm giving you the rights. No, that's not what it's for. The poem actually gives you the title to the gold, believe it or not. And it does so in this stanza. Yeah, the very last stanza. It's kind of funny. And you also should know what this means. If once you know what this is, entitled to the gold, you're going to know how you can be brave and in the wood. You're also going to know what worth the cold means. But the only way you're going to know what all of these three things mean is if you pay attention to this. Even though it's a dependent clause, it's really important that you understand what this means. So again, that's why I was telling you to look at the difference between those two verbs and look up these words if you have to, because this becomes very, very important. Because your first run through the poem, after we're done with all of this, if this was the first time you looked at the poem, you're obviously going to fail. You're not going to find the treasure chest because you're sitting at your desk. You're not even leaving your house. So you're going to come up cold, right? Just like you were doing tag as a kid where you're warm, getting warmer, up, you're hot, Oh, nope. So you're cold. You came up cold. You came up short. Because when you get to the line that says, but Tyrese can't with marble gaze, just take the chest and go in peace. You don't have the chest at that point. So you're going to come up cold and you're going to get down here. And this stanza, after you've read the whole poem, kind of fixes that matter for you. And it gives you this information. It's really cool what he did here. So anyway, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed all 6 of these videos. Like I said, the next video will be a summary of the stanzas that we already gone over. And the summary is going to be relatively quick. I'm just going to connect everything up. When that's finished, basically the grammar analysis is finished. At that point, you should be able to look at the analysis and use that to help you build your own solution. Because I tried to keep all of these videos solution free and they're 100% unbiased. They're based only on my grammar research and they're a really good starting point. But after we do the next video, I'm going to do my solution once again. In the solution that I already have on my channel, there's a couple things that I left out in there. I always leave like a couple of minute details out. And I do so for various reasons. But this time I'm not going to do that because this is it. My solve is going to be extremely convincing now that you went through this analysis. If you didn't go through the grammar analysis, you're not going to understand the solve. But that also means your solve is wrong and you'll never solve the poem, ever, until you understand the grammar. Trust me on that. If you don't understand the grammar, you will not solve this. You don't need to be a grammar expert. All you need to do is watch these videos and just use your head. Believe me, it's not difficult. And you can do it. You can do it. I know you can. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please click like, please subscribe, please pass this around. And like I said, my goal is to try to give closure to 350,000 searchers. I'm not in this to try to make money off searchers. I'm not looking for anything other than closure. If Jack's not going to give closure, I'm going to try my best to give closure. I prefer to do that instead of sit here and talk about controversy or to try to rip off other searchers' future treasure hunts that are mostly all scams. There is no Chase 2.0. Anyway, I hope you all have a good rest of the week. And hopefully, maybe tomorrow, I'm not sure. I'm going to try to get the summary video out. I got some work to do before I put it out. Hopefully, it's out tomorrow. If not, it'll be out as soon as possible. So, anyway, have a good night. Peace.